And for the most part, Edible Slow is completely free. And one of their featured stories this season is on Addison Landscape. And Alli Addison joins us in studio to talk about incorporating gardening incorporating kids into your gardening.
Exactly.
Hi, Alli. How are you?
I'm doing great, Randall. How are you?
I'm just fine. And
Good.
I got to say, the pictures are so cute of your son and then one of your friend's daughters, right?
Yes, exactly.
You guys are playing in the dirt. Is that what it basically is for the kids?
Pretty much, and for all ages. I also sent you a couple other pictures. I just installed another herb garden a couple weeks ago for a client, and I took the baby along with me, and so I sent you some pictures of him actually rolling around in the dirt. And that's what it comes down to is gardening with your kids is just like gardening to begin with. I mean, the basic principles still apply, but really you just have to think like a child. And you have to remember that it's supposed to be fun. And the whole idea is to inspire them and kind of foster this foodie person that you want them to become. And I always I go back to the beginning. So I'm a new mom. I have a 15-month-old. And I want to foster this healthy lifestyle for him. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that I need to do every single day, I need to put healthy meals in front of that kid.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first step for every parent. Healthy meals, healthy snacks, whatever it be. But then it's kind of like the whole, the proverb of give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish.
Yeah.
So back up another step, and then you take your kid to the kitchen, and you have them actually help you prepare those meals. So then they're starting to get inspired. They're starting to learn, like, okay, if I do this, this is what I'm going to get in return, and then I'm going to be able to enjoy this. So then you take it a step back even further. You take them to market. You take them to your local store, to your farmer's market, and you set them free, and you say, okay, scavenger hunt, if you will. Let's go and let's find these ingredients.
Make it fun, like a game, right?
Exactly. And then the final step really is if you have the ability to grow your own. And for me as a new mom, I really wanted like complete control, I guess you would say, over what my kid was eating. And I started off very, very hopeful, and this is exactly how I was going to do it, and he was going to eat this, and he was going to love it. And of course, a year and a half later, I've had to kind of go with the flow. Exactly.
Right.
But I like to think that with my husband, Tyler, being a landscaper, and he has the background on actually installing these edible gardens for people. And then with me and my newfound parenting and developing parenting skills, that I kind of have a good grasp on how I'm going to garden with my child and how I have been gardening with my child. So that's really what the article was about. And like I said, it comes down to fun and making sure that everything that you do has that fun element. And so then if you read through the article, I have a bunch of little tips. And the first one, think like a child. Again, back to the fun. Mm-hmm. There's a sense of wonderment when you're a kid, and really you just have to put yourself back into your 6-year-old self.
Right.
And it's as easy as that.
Well, really, like when I think back, my favorite thing to do in the garden was dig holes. You know, like you love to dig holes when you're a kid, and that's exactly what's needed for placing plants.
Yes, you have to do that. Right. And even if you are just playing in the dirt, having your parent next to you, if the parent is the one that's actually doing the work, and that happens in a lot of things, at least you're there and you're seeing your parent involved in the gardening, and eventually you're going to become interested in it. Mm-hmm. I think back to when I was a kid, I had a really great advantage in that I'm a farm girl. I grew up on a farm. My parents, we had avocados, lemons, cattle, raspberries on a larger scale. Mm-hmm. But because my parents really believed in this, we also had, my brother and I, our own edible gardens. And my mom would take us and we'd pick out exactly what we wanted to grow. And it was the big to do in springtime. We would go and we would pick it out, and I'd have my stuff and my brother would have his. And then at the end of the day, that's what we worked on. And of course, we had animals and we had all these things that we had to tend to. So we kind of had it down, and this was our chore, and you had to take care of these things. But then when everything would come into season, we would go down to the end of the driveway, and instead of having a lemonade stand, we'd have our own little mini farmer's market. And we'd sell the stuff. And so that was one of the tips that I had in this article is you want to inspire your children not only to grow the food for themselves, but get that sense of accomplishment. So, kick the lemonade stand to the curb, I guess you could say, and do a little farmer's market stand for your kids and let them sell the strawberries, let them sell the corn that they grew, the carrots, whatever it may be. So that was one of the tips that I had on there.
There's something really amazing when you're young and you see these plants produce things that you only know about being bought at a store. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is coming out of our yard. You know, my parents had strawberries and we had artichokes, and I always begged them to plant things that wouldn't grow in Northern California. Like I wanted to grow pineapples. You know, and they're like, yeah, well, pineapples aren't going to work for us here, but but we can do this, that, and the other.
Exactly.
And so my love for farm fresh foods started young, like you were saying. That's great to instill that at such a young age. You know who Michael Pollan is?
Of course.
Yeah, I was listening to an interview with him today, and he basically was saying a lot of what you were just saying, that starting really young with these different attributes will go a long way in changing this obesity problem we have, the desire for the sweets only at the stores, and wanting to know what's in your foods.
Exactly. It really starts at a young age. And even if you have the 10-year-old or if you have the 15-year-old, you could still do this, and you could still try to foster that that farmer and growing your own food. You could foster that in your child. A couple other tips that I have in there is kids are all about instant gratification.
Yeah.
So when you are planning what you're going to plant, remember that they are not very patient.
No.
You're learning their patience. So they want stuff that's going to grow really quickly. So you want to keep that in mind. Also color. Kids love color. And so one of the things I had in there too was the element of surprise. And you could imagine for the first time a child, if you've gone down the carrot route and being able to pull that carrot out from the ground.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, there's this orange thing and it's delicious. And what a surprise. It's like Christmas morning and they get to open that up. So I had on there one of those tips. A couple other ones. Location. So my mom always said, I always kind of had your play area within view of the house. And you want to remember that if you have the space and if you have room to think about where you're going to put your edible garden, you want to make sure that, number one, it's close to your kitchen so that it's an easy transfer of the goods back and forth. But secondly, if this is going to be a space for your kids, you want to keep an eye on them. So you don't want it on the backside of the house where you cannot see them doing their thing. So location is a big factor.
I noticed in a lot of the pictures that you have, you use raised beds.
Yes, raised beds.
So is that really
it's so easy?
We make gardening a little more like in our heads. We make gardening more difficult than it actually is.
Exactly. And so one of the location things too is a lot of people don't have this space. So if you don't have this space to have this edible garden, pots. Container edible gardens are fantastic. You could have the tiniest little pot on your back patio.
You can do it in a condo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so if you wanted to start small, there's another thing. I mean, a lot of people will get really excited and they'll go off to Miners or to Farm Supply and they'll buy all their plants. And
I'm guilty of doing that.
And you probably buy too many and then you don't know what you and your child can actually tend to and what you have time for, because at the end of the day, this is a time-consuming job. I mean, you're growing your own food. You're taking care of a living thing pretty much. So start small. A great way to start is with herbs. And I know it may not seem that exciting for a kid, but you could put it in a container. You could put it in a pot. So it's something that can fit anywhere, no matter what size your yard is. Right now, with my son being 1.5 years, it's all about developing his senses. So beyond taste and beyond sight and beyond sound and everything that we've been working on, he also is developing his sense of smell. And right now we have our basil, our sweet Italian basil.
And you can touch the leaves and then rub them.
And you rub it. And honestly, I think I get more satisfaction over the look on his face when he smells that and his eyes
like,
kind of bulge out of his head.
Mom.
Exactly.
Look what we did.
Yeah.
And then you can take the mint and you can make homemade mint ice cream.
Exactly.
Which really just tastes so much better
so
than
good.
anything else you could ever possibly buy at the store.
Absolutely.
With the fresh mint. Well, I love it. I know that there will be a lot of parents out there that'll get a ton out of the rest of this article. Some of the points we weren't able to get to. It is Edible Slow magazine, available all over the place.
Everywhere.
Even at the farmer's market tonight. You can find more information online, facebook.com/edible SLO, edible slow. And Alli, is it addisonlandscape.com?
Yep. addisonlandscape.com. Our phone number is 805-473-0913. And you can also check out our Facebook, which is facebook.com/Addison Landscape Inc.
And you're located in the village of Arroyo Grande.
Yes.
Well, Alli, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
No problem. Thank you, Randall.
We're going to go play in the dirt during the commercial break here, and then